Welcome to this explainer. So forget the old idea of retirement as just quietly fading into the background. It's time we flip the script. Today we're looking at ELAR. That stands for Enjoying Life After Retirement at 65. It's an evidence-informed approach that shows us how life after our primary career is actually an active, dynamic process of mastering both your biological and emotional health. Let's dive right into this roadmap for thriving.
Here's our clinical roadmap for today. We'll start with the ELAR EQ framework, move to the ruler protocol, look at cardiovascular stress interactions, explore brain health and glymphatics, check out biodigital integration tools, and wrap up with clinical implementation protocols.
Section 1. The ELAR Emotional Intelligence Framework. You know, the post-career transition involves a truly profound psychological shift. For decades, we basically defined our identity by external occupational metrics, right? Our titles, our productivity, the promotions. But when you retire, that briefcase is suddenly swapped for a yoga mat. To stay mentally resilient, we have to pivot away from those external indicators and really start relying on internally regulated forms of self-evaluation. It's all about internal emotional monitoring now.
This shift is actually beautifully explained by something called socio-emotional selectivity theory, or SST. Think of it as a natural pivot toward quality over quantity. In later adulthood, we naturally prioritized deeply meaningful emotional goals rather than just expanding our network. And this is absolutely crucial. This isn't some sort of social decline. It's an intentional, totally healthy pruning of our social trees to focus on the relationships that truly matter to us.
Section 2. The ruler protocol. So to build this internal emotional awareness, ELAR utilizes the ruler protocol. This originated from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, and ruler stands for recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate. It's an incredibly practical, structured toolkit for managing the complex identity shifts that inevitably come with retirement. Here's how these skills actually map out functionally for our well-being. Recognizing helps you detect stress in your body early on. Understanding lets you reframe life's big transitions. Labeling brings real clarity to your feelings, while expressing keeps your crucial social bonds strong. Finally, regulating restores your emotional balance. Together, these aren't just soft skills, they literally help optimize your autonomic nervous system against the stress of aging. Now, central to that labeling step is a concept called emotional granularity. Think of it like being a sommelier, but for your feelings. Instead of just saying, I feel bad, you specifically identify it as melancholy versus remorse. This precise semantic labeling is amazing because it actually engages your ventrolateral prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, which in turn calms down the amygdala, your fear center. This directly reduces your body's chronic wear and tear, which we call allostatic load.
Section 3. Cardiovascular stress interactions.
Let's shift gears and look at the physical heart. The Emotion-Lipid interaction framework shows us that psychological stress actually changes how our bodies handle cholesterol. Even if you're treating atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, essentially the plaque buildup in your arteries, with standard drugs like statins, emotional stress acts as a modulating factor. It works on whatever clinical risk is left over, potentially accelerating disease progression.
The biology here is absolutely fascinating and incredibly specific. First, acute stress temporarily stiffens your blood vessels, impairing endothelial function. Second, chronic strain triggers systemic inflammatory signaling, particularly through the NLRP3 pathway, which can make those arterial plaques unstable. Third, it causes microvascular dysfunction. This means you can experience true, measurable heart strain, clinically known as mental stress-induced myocardial ischemia, without having any physical blockages in your main coronary arteries.
Section 4. Brain health and glymphatics.
All right, meet your brain's very own nighttime janitorial service, the Glymphatic system. It uses specialized astrocytic aquaporin 4 channels to flush out metabolic waste. But here's the catch. This deep cleaning clearance pathway only really peaks during slow-wave sleep. Its main job is clearing out neurotoxic proteins like beta amyloid. And as you might know, those are the exact same proteins linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. When you carry a high allostatic load, think of it like a heavy, overflowing bucket of unresolved psychological stress. It severely dysregulates your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA axis, throwing your stress hormones out of whack. This fragments your sleep. And because that glymphatic janitor needs uninterrupted slow-wave sleep to work, neurometabolic waste removal is impaired.
The result is this vicious cycle of brain inflammation that ruins your sleep even further.
Section 5. Biodigital Integration Tools.
To manage these invisible stress signals, ELAR brings in some incredible tech. Wearables can track your heart rate variability, giving you a continuous, non-invasive proxy for the balance of your autonomic nervous system. Sleep trackers help verify you're actually getting that vital slow-wave sleep we just talked about. We're even seeing the use of AI companions like ELAR, which can deliver structured psychosocial support and help mitigate the very real physical toll of social isolation.
Now, a quick word of caution here. We absolutely have to approach these gadgets with some academic restraint. Your smartwatch is not a doctor. Wearable-derived metrics should be interpreted as supportive wellness indicators rather than definitive clinical diagnoses. They are amazing supportive sidekicks to your established biomedical interventions, but they don't replace your physician.
Section 6. Clinical Implementation Protocols.
So how do practitioners put all of this together into actionable guidelines? It's a sequential plan. Step 1, apply the ruler framework to build a baseline of awareness. Step 2, develop that emotional granularity. Step 3, engage in prediction error learning. Step 4, monitor your wearables. And Step 5, actively prioritize sleep and your social ties.
Let's highlight Step 3 for a second. Prediction error learning means intentional engagement with cognitively demanding activities, like learning a new language or tackling a complex puzzle. Managing the frustration of acquiring a novel skill actually strengthens a resilience network in your brain called the mid-cingulate cortex. In short, training yourself to handle small frustrations now builds massive adaptive behavioral regulation for the future.
Which leaves us with a truly compelling question. How will integrating structured emotional regulation with digital physiological monitoring redefine our standard for a long-term functional health span? The evidence is pretty clear. Emotional intelligence isn't just a psychological tool anymore. It is a biological imperative for healthy aging. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.